We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, if you need just a little bit of extra college football content to get you through the days, to get you through the nights, subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Welcome into the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirk Gowdy Avenue. Welcome in. Welcome in. Don't be afraid. I'm having trouble talking this evening, which is normal. But thanks for coming on in. Susan Murray. What is this? What is this? Thank you, Susan. Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on in. Jesse, thanks for coming on in. Headset to swivel. Absolutely. To Master. Sunday. Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger it is. Sky Yuma. I know this is a national college football show. I keep my Gopher statements to a minimum. I have been getting pounded for months from my fellow beloved Gopher fans because I got us going 5-7 this year. I watched the spring football game and I'm drinking the maroon and gold Kool-Aid. I am drinking it. I have it spilled all over me. I got us now going between 6-6 and 7-5. We're going to be getting into that. Sam Hartman's brilliant spring game for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I told you. Sam Hartman, the number one quarterback taken in all of the transfer portal. Sam Hartman was brilliant. He's going to be brilliant for Marcus Freeman and the Irish this year. Look out. With an improved wide receiver room. Let's talk about other spring games. In the comments section, talk about your team's spring game. How did it go? We still have another weekend. We have games on the 29th. But if your team has played, let me know who has shined, who hasn't. Okay? But my opinions on some of these teams starting to change a little bit. So welcome on in. The big story is Colorado's Chancellor. He spoke. We broke it down in an episode earlier today. I'm going to need your help, PATC community, in understanding parts of what the Chancellor said. But I've got let's just call it an educated speculation. I think there's a hidden compromise within the Big 12. Not a hidden compromise when it comes to a final media deal. That's not what I mean. I think there's a hidden compromise in the process that's going on right now. I really believe that. Hang with me. Hang with me as I go over it. Tell me I'm crazy. Or tell me I'm crazy like a fox. Either way, I'm good with that. You know how this works. I do the monologue. I go through some of your comments. And then we're going to hit the phone lines. We're going to hit them hard tonight. First of all, we have to thank, very, very fortunate to have this incredible sponsor for our live shows. Welcome to Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. We invite you to discover the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference. The clean, hot air roasted coffee produces a smoother, a richer, healthier coffee that is less bitter and less acidic. Our hot air roasted coffee uses convection heat to loft the beans for a very even heat transfer. The clean, bright taste that people rave about is achieved by roasting the bean quickly and evenly while suspended on a bed of hot air. From craft to cup, hand-picked coffee beans. The smoothest coffee the Little General has ever had. Beautiful coffee. Go to the link provided in the description. Order your bag of coffee. And if you want to support this channel while doing so, put PATC in the comments section in their website. We thank you so very much. And again, go to our merchandise store, the PATC official mug. You got your trucker hat, the hoodies. We're going to be coming out with some t-shirts with the new art. Always keep your head on a swivel art. That's going to be fun. That's going to be coming out soon, so keep your eye on that. And of course, as we go through this show, it's all about Cloak and Dagger. Official game rules. Okay. First of all, we'll wait for more people to pile in. I'm going to first talk about the Minnesota Golden Gophers. I know none of you are Gopher fans. I get it. Maybe one or two of you are in the chat and watching. But let me tell you something. That spring football game, you guys know I believe the Gophers are going to take a couple steps back this year. The last 3 full seasons, they've won 11, 9, and 9 games. They have the highest winning percentage of any Gopher 3-year existence since 1960 to 1962. Eventually, at some point, the Gophers are going to take a step back. Their margin of error is so small. Their recruiting national rankings are always in the high 30s or in the 40s, sometimes in the low 50s. But PJ Fleck has done a spectacular job, and I figured they'd take a couple steps back. I still think they're going to take a step and a half back. However, Athen Kalamakinis, or whatever how you say his last name, Athen, the Greek rifle. What he did in that spring game, what he did in that last game against the Badgers to win the Axe for the second year in a row, and what he did in that spring football game, unbelievable. Unbelievable throws. I'm talking about the footwork, the arm angle, the whip action, the tight spiral. Bam, bam, from outside the hash mark, on the other opposite side of the field, 60-yard bombs with a flip of the wrist. Elijah Spencer, a great wide receiver transfer from Charlotte. Corey Crooms, a slot receiver from Western Michigan. Zach Evans, a redshirt freshman running back, showing incredible skills. Muhammad Ibrahim, before he left that campus, he said Zach Evans is the next great Gopher running back. And then Darius Taylor, my goodness, the true freshman running back who exploded in Michigan high school football last year. The Wolverines offered him. It was too late in the process. He stuck with this commitment. He looked like a... Now, the problem is, for the Gophers, is Darius Taylor, Zach Evans. There's a high probability one of those guys is going to be the next year's Bucky Irving, right? Where you go to somebody else, the University of Oregon, bigger NIL deal. So the Gophers are going to have to increase their NIL to keep these big-time players at home. So this is a different Gophers team. The offensive line going to take another step back. Defensive line, young. We'll see. The secondary, absolutely thin. The linebacker crew, the thinnest. You can't get any more thin than the Gophers linebackers, so they have to pick up some people in the portal in this last 7 days of this transfer portal. Gophers have got to pick up some guys. We are below the 85 scholarships. But when it comes to skill players, this is the deepest wide receiver room we have had since the PJ Fleck era started. And so I got us, I got the Gophers 6-6. I've already bumped them up 5-7 to 6-6. We got to hit the portal hard. We've got to come up with something. That's my, I was drinking the maroon and gold Kool-Aid for the last 2 days. In the last 24 hours since that spring football game. I also watched Nebraska. They're fumbling the ball a lot. Jeff Sims showed some promise out there. I think Nebraska is a year away from being a year away from competing for any big bowl games in the Big Ten. Notre Dame, Sam Hartman, 13 of 16, quick decisions, bam, bam, bam. This is not going to be your normal. This is the best quarterback they've had in a long time. And you know how I feel about Tommy Rees. Not a big fan of Tommy Rees. Offensive coordinator. Went to Alabama. Now Notre Dame. I think this is a different Notre Dame team. I think they're going to have a very good year. I think the Buckeyes, the Ohio State Buckeyes, are going to have to buckle up against Notre Dame. That should be a fascinating football game. Colorado, saw some of that. Pretty fun. Pretty cool. 45,000 people. Deion Sanders. That Hunter guy, he's a beast. Quarterback Sanders, he looked better than I thought he was going to look. No question about it. They look pretty small out there. They are small if you go by their roster. We'll see. A fascinating start of the season for Colorado. They play TCU. They play Nebraska. So even before they get into their conference schedule, they have a very fascinating non-conference schedule. And about Colorado, since I got through the spring games, and I want you to talk about the spring football games for your teams, your phone calls and comments later on, let's talk about Colorado, shall we? Colorado Chancellor talks Pac-12 expansion, Big 12 rumor, Deion Sanders, and recruiting. From USA Today, Boulder, Colorado. Now, I went through this article in an episode earlier today. I don't think I'm going to go through the whole article in this live show. I want to get to the bullet points here. This is Phil DiStefano. He's the chancellor. And of course, when this article came out, I talked with a lot of people, and they said this guy's really not even the major decision maker when it comes to possible realignment. It's the president. Either way, I think he said a lot. I'm very thankful that he spoke out in public, finally, as a representative of the University of Colorado. He talked about Pac-12 going for a 5-year contract. Now, in this last Arizona State Money Perch letter that we released, we had a live show that you guys watched. Arizona State Money Perch said 4 different times in that letter, 5-year deal, 5-year deal, 5-year deal. Once again, I think, while we know who, I don't say we, us, and us, I'm saying BTM and his associates and myself, we know who the Arizona State Money Perch guy is, and we truly believe he's been just ahead of the curve on all this, as we give you a peek around the corner in this Pac-12 saga. And this is another thing where he told us 5-year deal, 5-year deal, 5-year deal, and here is the Colorado chancellor believing it's going to be a 5-year deal. Skip over that part. DiStefano says there's a very good possibility the next deal will bring in per school revenues ranking 3rd among the Power 5 conferences, ahead of the Big 12 and Atlantic Coast Conference. So the Chancellor of Colorado is putting such, to say that on April 23rd, there's a very good possibility the next deal will bring in a per school revenues ranking 3rd among Power 5 conferences. That's a pretty high expectation. He didn't have to say that, but he put it out there. Now, he either truly believes that or he's saying this is what needs to happen. I am not sure. But there's a very good possibility the next deal will bring in more money per school than the Big 12 and Atlantic, and the Big 12 and the ACC. He also says, here, take a look at this paragraph. I think in 5 years, we'll get a much better feel for streaming services, said the chancellor, Colorado's chancellor. That's changing so much, and it's going to put us in a position to pick up some things that maybe we're not going to get at this point. So at the beginning of this paragraph, the third one down here on the screen ahead of you, I think in 5 years, we'll get a much better feel for streaming services. That to me is an indication that the Colorado chancellor, just like the Arizona president, is putting a limit on how much streaming that they can have in this new Pac-12 media deal. So if it's limited, if I'm reading that correctly, let me know if I'm wrong on this. Let me know if you think I'm completely off the rails. But he's saying the media deal, streaming, maybe 5 years from now, but now it's got to be the minority part of the total media package, the streaming part. So what he's saying is we expect to make more money per school than the Big 12 and the ACC, but yet it isn't going to be streaming dominant. Okay? That's what he's saying. Now we get to another point. That the question was asked, is that a backup plan for Colorado going to the Big 12? This was his answer. Nobody's asked us. I shouldn't even say that. We're committed to the Pac-12. What I've said all along with the other presidents and chancellors is we're not going to even think about going anywhere. None of us, until we see what kind of offer we get. And that's still being worked out. I'm confident it's going to be fine. He's saying nobody's asked us. In other words, nobody has asked Colorado to join their conference. Now, that's not how it works. We all know this. Peek around the corner, we've explained this before, and you all know this in the PATC community. Conferences don't ask schools to join them. Schools don't even fill out an application unless they know they're going to get in to a conference. We explained this on the episode today as well. Nobody's asked us. No one is going to ask you, Chancellor. And he knows this. Unless you say, yes, if you give us an invitation, we're in. That's why when this Chancellor of Colorado, now again, I can't read his mind. This is speculation. But when he said nobody's asked us, I shouldn't even say that. I think he was going to play a semantic game, and then he backed away. Nobody's asked us to join them. Big 12 hasn't asked us. And he says, I shouldn't even say that. We're committed to the Pac-12. This whole thing about application and invitation, those words really don't even exist in the process. When USC and the Big Ten were negotiating back and forth and they decided this is going to work good for both of us, it wasn't this USC saying, can we have this paper, this invitation paper, and the Big Ten conferences is saying, oh, can we offer you? It doesn't work that way. And then he went on to say, I've said all along with the other presidents and chancellors, we're not going to even think about going anywhere. None of us. Until we see what kind of offer we get. And that's still being worked out. And then I want to skip to the end. Keep that in mind. When they're talking about possible expansion, the Chancellor, Colorado, at the very end, says, expansion depends on the new media deal, which is getting close, he said. Which is getting close. Expansion depends on the new media deal, and keeping the 10 Pac-12 universities together depends on the media deal. And he says, the Chancellor of Colorado, which is getting close. So I read that as when the Chancellor of Colorado finally speaks in public about this and puts benchmarks saying, we expect good possibility that our media deal will push us as third in the conference for payouts per school for media money, and that it's going to be mostly linear. It's not going to be heavy, dominant streaming, and that the deal is going to get done. We're getting close to getting it done. In other words, we're not going to be doing this 2 or 3 months negotiation stance with these large streaming companies. Throw that into the mix. I really believe from everything that the Arizona State Money Perch has said, and from other people that we communicate here at Peek Around the Corner, I really, truly, truly believe there's a hidden compromise in the Pac-12. Not a hidden deal. I don't think they've got their deal yet. Arizona State Money Perch warned everybody, was telling everybody for months, there is no deal. When everyone was announcing all these numbers, these other reports, our guy kept telling us there is no deal. There's no compromise offer has been even put in front of the Pac-12 presidents. Our Arizona State money perch told us that Arizona was upset. He told us that on January 31st after the January 30th meeting. 2 weeks later, the Arizona State athletic director says the same thing that the Arizona money perch said. The Arizona State money perch says 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. Chancellor says Colorado 5-year deal. That's what they're looking at. The Arizona State money perch has been saying the next first 2 weeks in May. That's when they're going to know if schools are going to be leaving or if they're all going to be staying. And I think the hidden compromise is this. It's about the process. They've agreed on the process. When the Chancellor of Colorado says, none of us are leaving until we see the deal, I think that means they've got a hidden compromise amongst all of themselves. That no one is going to, in the middle of the night, leave the conference. But in return, the deal, the offer, the compromise package, not the compromise, the comprehensive package has to be set in front of us in middle of May. That's what we believe at Peek Around the Corner is the hidden compromise. None of us are leaving. We can proudly stay here. We can proudly stand in front of you all and say, none of us are leaving until we see an offer. Then we'll make a decision. But in return, I think they're all getting something. And that is to make sure they see a deal here in the next month. Then decisions will be made. And from all the people I've talked to, they still don't see how the Pac-12 gets a media package that is more linear than streaming, that gets them anywhere close when it comes to dollars to the Big 12. A heavy streaming deal maybe gets you there when it comes to the dollars. But again, look at what Chancellor of Colorado just said. Look at what the University of Arizona president said a few weeks ago in terms of this cannot be a majority streaming deal. It can't even be 50-50. It can't be even 50-50, linear and streaming. So I see this Colorado Chancellor statements as more benchmarks put out in public that George Kliavkoff has to meet. And I think there's one more that's been set there. And that is, this thing has to be given to us, shown to us, explained to us by the middle of May. Okay, let's get to your comments. Let me know. Let me know how wrong I am in comments and your phone calls. Talk about spring football. What do you think, guys? What do you think about your club, guys and gals? Monavision, coming in strong. Happy birthday. Please have a double cloak and dagger chaser on me, Cooler. Thank you so much, Monavision. Mr. Buckeye, thank you for your generosity. I appreciate it so very much. Again, yes, I am Greg the Cooler, but this is 2023. My predictions, my games, my picks against the spread, I'm going to hit 60% winners. 60% winners, I guarantee you right now on my birthday. 60% winners for 2023. Okay. And hopefully you guys all forget what I just said when it starts happening. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the 2023 football season. Okay, here we go. Randy Taylor, hello all. John Metzer is dancing in the chat room. Daniel Montecastle, Mr. Hoosier, hello PATC people. Daniel says I'm at the pub, ready for the croak and stagger. Woo! Basketball school. Thanks for coming on in. Where's the cloak and dagger money perch? Oh, yeah. Kane Robb was pumped up. Locked On Gophers. Watch his podcast. Kane Robb was pumped for the Gophers wide receivers in the spring game. I chastise Cornhusker fans for always drinking the Kool-Aid on Twitter. And here I am. I'm drinking the maroon and gold Twitter after that spring football game. Now, mind you, I bumped them up from 5-7 to 6-6. So it's not like I'm going crazy here. But, I liked what I saw. Again, we're extremely thin on defense. And I don't know, are we going to go through the whole season without an injury? Gopher fans? Woo! Laura Weiss, happy birthday from Texas. Thank you so much, Laura. Basketball school. Happy birthday, Greg. This is the big 3-0. 3-0? That was 25 years ago. Washington defense looked great. Jesse Wilson. Indiana has the toughest football schedule this year. And Daniel, I think we're right behind you in the toughest football schedule. So, yeah, tough schedules. Christopher Shannon, Flugar's got the goods tonight. Not the goods, but just I got a feeling that type of night. David says, so maybe Arizona State are the first two to jump. There's nothing in those comments from the Chancellor of Colorado that says that Colorado won't be the first to jump. He basically repeated what the University of Arizona president said, Robbins, except for he put in I think we're getting close to getting a media deal done. Fascinating saga. Daniel, lucky to get 5 wins. If we beat Louisville, we have a chance. The Indiana Hoosiers have a chance to get 5. Wild oot. Chancellor says we ain't leaving until the pack numbers are provided. There's going to be a pinch point soon because the ASU Money Perch said the drop dead date to leave is mid-May. It's all coming around to that, isn't it? All the dots. Looks like they're being connected. We shall see. High drama, Wild Oot. High drama. Opie, I do not like spring games. I don't put no stock in them. It's plain and simple vanilla. No flavor. Woo! Opie's coming in hard. T-Duck. Chancellor, also he expects the Pac media money to be better than the Big 12. Happy birthday. Thank you, Opie. Appreciate it. Michael Whitmer, 60% winners from the cooler. Ha ha! I'm skeptical. Well, aren't we all? But you know what? On April 23rd, why not? Maybe I've got the winning formula this year. Okay? Maybe I've got the winning formula. You know, last year, I know there's a lot of new people. First of all, Michael, thank you so much for the generosity. Thank you so much for the super chat, helping us keep the lights on. Appreciate it, sir. I was doing so bad last year, Michael. I really shouldn't tell you this story because some of you know it because you were witness to the brutality of my predictions against the spread last year. But it was getting so bad, that in the middle of the year, about 8th or 9th week, I did a George Costanza opposite week. So I took the opposite of what I wanted and flipped it. So I did it. I did 8 games, did George Costanza opposite week, and I went 1-7 against the spread. So if I would have done what I wanted to do, I would have went 7-1, would have turned that whole thing around, probably gotten back up to 500 around there against the spread. But I did George Costanza, went 1-7, and I just went right into the toilet. That's how bad it was last year. But that was last year. That was last year. 2023. The calendar is flipped. The earth has gone around the sun one more time. Everything's changed. Everything has changed. Don't worry about it. 60%, it's doable. It is absolutely doable. Okay, I got to get back to your comments. Holy smokes, am I behind? Holy moly. Cloak and Dagger. Sean Eaton, all streaming pack deal would be terrible. Don't think it's even possible. Not all the schools are going to sign off to that. Aloha from Andrew Watt. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it, good sir. Monavision says there's no way the pack gets to third unless the deal is majority streaming. And am I wrong? God, I want the phone calls to come in. I want someone to explain to me that one part. Let me see if I can find it. Of course, I can't find it when I need it. Yeah, this part here. I think in 5 years we'll get a much better feel for streaming services. And then he says that's changing so much. It's going to put us in a position to pick up some things that maybe we're not going to get at this point. I really don't know what that means, and boy, I wish I did know what that meant. But that first part, I think in 5 years we'll get a much better feel for streaming services. That means I don't think it's going to be heavy streaming. And if it's not heavy streaming, that means they can probably get a deal done earlier, or at least have it offered in front of those Pac-12 presidents earlier, because I think that's what the Pac-12 presidents are demanding in return for everybody staying in the boat, giving George Kliavkoff a little bit more space, a little bit more time. Provo Cougar fan. The 7 days left in the portal are for players entering. Teams can select players already in the portal at any time. Yep. And the Gophers have got to get a couple defensive players. Got to do it. Tumasta. Colorado admits the doors cracked open. I agree. Tumasta. Again. I agree. Happy birthday. Thank you, Linda Olson. Appreciate it. Happy birthday. Thank you so much. Big 5-5. I ate at Denny's this morning, and the 55 plus the back of the menu. I got the cheddar, scrambled cheese, bacon, sausage, brought the pancakes home for the little general. As I'm on the low carb diet for the 127th time. This time, it's going to stick. Sean Eaton, my second team is Minnesota. My grandma graduated from Minnesota in Oregon. Go Ducks, go Gophers. That's great, Sean Eaton. But you got to promise me no more picking away our best running back going into the next season. You got Bucky Irving, but take your hands off of Darius Taylor and Zach Evans. Wild dude, don't know why spring games cannot be a scrimmage with another school. Would have loved to spring game versus BYU's 1s, 2s, and 3s instead of Utah's own. That would be beautiful. Wild dude, people are talking about it. I would love it. I would absolutely love it. It couldn't be anybody on your schedule. It really couldn't be anybody in your conference. It would have to be, you can't have live tackling for the quarterbacks, but the rest of it, I think it should happen. I hope it happens. Minnesota versus Kansas, spring game. Motivision. Every time Minnesota plays that team up north, I'm a huge Gopher fan. Gophers play Michigan early in the season. Gophers play the Buckeyes late in the season. And even though the Gophers defense probably won't stop the Wolverines or the Buckeyes this year, watch out for Kalamakimakis, the Greek rifle. Athan Klakomanis. Athan Kalamanis. However you say his name. The Greek rifle. Watch out. That's all I'm going to say. Watch out. Klakomanis. He has got incredible skill. If he can just get it all together, Gophers are in business when it comes to the offense. The last 2 years, the Gophers have been 9th in total defense in the nation and number 3 in total defense in the nation. They're not going to have that type of defense this year, unfortunately. Okay. There is Opie. There is a Florida State YouTube called Florida State Double Fries No Slaw. Said there should be a filing against the ACC. Per Swam, is it Swam or I don't know how to pronounce that name. Don't know how to pronounce any names. So please do not take it personal if I mispronounce your name, your YouTube handle, or 20% of the words I try to say. Per Swam show, rumor now, so maybe if so, would love to hide the host part 3. Part 3 is not ready to be released. I don't know anything about FSU filing against the ACC at this point. Don't know anything about it. Doesn't mean it's not happening, but we have absolutely no steam. We do not think that fits the timeline of how we believe this is going down. So, but it would have to be someone filing against the ACC. It's the ACC that owns the Florida State's media rights, not ESPN. So it would have to go to court against ACC. So that part's correct. And that part, a lot of times people get wrong. But I don't know anything about that. Go Blue, Derek Myrie. Thanks for coming on. Go Blue, is that Michigan? All right. Michigan Wolverines, they're absolutely stacked. Monavision says, I actually read it as after 5 years of majority streaming deal, they will have a better understanding for future negotiations. Okay, I just, man, if I was doing the interview, I would have asked for a clarification. So you think Moenvision, you believe that might be an indication that it is a majority streaming deal that they're working towards. That's what the perception is from the Chancellor of Colorado. Okay. Day Old Donuts is in the house. Good news, if those receivers and quarterback pan out for Minnesota, they will be in the portal next year. No! Minnesota to the Big 12. Okay, let's get to your phone calls. Let's rock and roll here. Let's go. Okay, let me know in your phone calls. What do you think about the spring football game that your team played in? How did they do? Any serious injuries? Quarterback battles? Sam Hartman lit it up for Notre Dame. Arch Manning struggled.
Call from
Wild Ute.
Wild Ute is in the house. Mr. Utah, man. What's going on, sir? The floor's yours.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep, and happy Sunday to everybody out there. But, hey, so I think there is something really big here. There's something bigger going on than just the CU move, or U of A move to the Big 12. And I think that intuitively we all know this, but I don't think that we've actually spoken about this.
Okay.
And really, I think that this is the formation of a third super conference. What's happening here? I think that these moves are going to dictate who's going to be that strong third conference going forward over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And so I think that this is a huge decision for all these schools, and I think that it's not just a short-term 5-year exposure financial decision. It's a 20, 25-year decision to see if we're going to line up with these other schools in the formation of a third large conference. I
agree with you, sir. Yep.
Yeah, it really is. And so when you're looking at CU, U of A, all these schools, it's a huge decision to say, hey, are we going to line up with the Big 12 schools? Are we going to try to keep together for 5 years and then line up maybe with an ACC school? Or do we want to can the Pac-12 survive to become that third major conference in 5 to 7 years? Can we become stronger in 5 to 7 years if we just survive? I think that's really what's going on here. And I think that, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm agreeing with you. Go ahead.
And I think that it's a tough decision to jump to the Big 12 with that in mind, too. And I think that's why we haven't seen any schools move yet. Because I think with the alignment, with the brand alignment, I think the schools are going to want to stay in the Pac unless Oregon and Washington leave. And that will be the huge driver that just changes everything. But for now, I think that they're going to stay pat unless that Oregon and Washington move happens.
And you could absolutely be correct. A lot of people agree with you. In fact, the Arizona State Money Perch, that was his first position on this. No one's going to do anything unless Washington and Oregon pull the thread first. Okay? But his position has changed on it. And the reason why his position has changed on it is because they have been promised so many things and nothing has happened. Even up until this point. Like, he knows, he's been telling us, we've been reporting to y'all that there hasn't been no deal even set in front of them. So, here's the thing. Yes, these schools are making a big decision. And it has to do with years and years down the road. Not just about, like you said, surviving for the next 5 years. However, and I'm not saying that these networks control everything, because they do not. They control about 85% of it, but they don't control everything. But I think, or at least from what we've been strongly suggested, people have strongly suggested this to us, is that the networks have they have made that decision already. If the numbers we were told about a month ago are accurate, and I haven't said those numbers because I have my reasons, but there's been a few outlets out there who have said the absolute correct numbers, and I thought these outlets were kind of sketchy, but now I'm starting to think that they got wind of the good numbers. Anyways, I shouldn't have went down that pathway. There's no way. Okay, so people are wondering why the Pac-12 did not take the Fox and ESPN offer, after seeing the numbers, there's no way they could have. No way they could have. Now, I'm asking you to believe me without me telling you what the numbers is, and I can understand why no one would believe me. But those offers were so low that that there's no way. You know what? Hold on a second.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to give those numbers out right now. Okay? I'm going to give those numbers out right now because I just don't, I think it's, I'm going to give a range. I'm going to give a range. Okay?
Okay.
So everybody write these numbers down. I'm not going to give, you're going to understand what I'm saying. I'm not going to give the exact number. I'm going to give a little range to it. So everybody listen up. Is everybody listening up? Give me a yes. Do you want to hear the range of numbers that the Pac-12 has offered? Because this will tell this part of the story, because a lot of people are being very conservative and holding back on this story. Okay. I'm going to give a little bit of a range, and hopefully I don't get in too much trouble. The offers were Fox Sports. I want to make sure. I'm writing the range, so I Fox Sports second tier games, not the first pick, second tier games for, let's say, let's just say, I'm trying to do this without Fox Sports for 19 to 23 games of football games, the second tier games, not first peak during any of the weeks, an offer of $45 to $60 million for the conference. I'm giving you the range. The real number is in there somewhere, okay? 45 to 60 million. For ESPN, for tier one, their original offer, and I'm just giving the range, 85 to 110 million. You add those two together.
Yeah.
What the streaming would have to do is double it. The streaming component would have to double what Fox and ESPN total combined offer was for the other 28 to 29 games. And that would be third tier content for streaming, which, by the way, Apple TV is not interested in. And Amazon would do one game every Friday night. The point is, the offer was so low and they haven't moved off it. Now, there's some reporting from Kazano and others that they're still talking to Fox. Maybe Fox would bump it up. I don't think so. Andrew Michon has said ESPN and Pac-12 are miles and miles apart. I still think they're miles and miles apart. So the CW, ION, can that come into play? Will they pay more money to get into that college space? I think that's the best case scenario for the Pac-12. I think that may work. I'm sorry. I'll let you have the floor back. Will Wildu, you can have as much time as you want. I apologize. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm trying to establish, not that anyone has to believe me. I'm just trying to establish out there, there's been strong reporting, strong, overwhelming steam to say that Fox Sports and ESPN just lowballed the bleep out of the Pac-12. So when you talk about schools having to make decisions going forward to make sure they're in that power third conference, right? Like what you just said. The problem with that is those networks do not look at the Pac-12 as being that power third conference. They do look at Utah very positively. They do look at Washington and Oregon with lots of positivity, right? Mm-hmm. But together as a whole, they're not looking at that entity anymore as being the potential third power conference. I'll be quiet. The floor is yours. You got as much time as you want.
Just a little more dialogue about that, because maybe this was incorrect, but I thought I'd heard from a reputable source, maybe you reported, maybe somebody else, that the media valuations before Yormark jumped the line were the same. Like the ESPN offer was the same, right?
Yeah. No.
So is it?
No. You're right.
Okay.
You're right. This is after Big 12 got their deal. In other words,
if it's, go ahead.
This is after the Big 12 jumped in line, got their deal.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think Fox I think they, because the media market recession, because Big 12 got the better time slots, the better advertising slots, and all that stuff. I honestly believe that Fox, especially Fox, but even ESPN, just kneecapped the Pac-12. After the Pac-12 kneecapped themselves, now, I understand people might not believe those ranges of numbers. They might not believe anything that we're saying and other reporters. I get it. But I'm just telling you, that's a overwhelming steam that people are sitting on. And that's when people say, I can't see how they come to a deal right now. When Andrew Michon and Joe Ron are saying this stuff in The Athletic, I'm not saying they have the exact numbers that we have at Peek Around the Corner, although I think they do. I think the networks have sort of made a decision already. But it's not hopeless. Like you said on Twitter, wow, dude, and I agree with you. It's not hopeless. I think there's other ways that they can cobble a deal together, right? And survive 5 years, and maybe the market changes and maybe the Pac-12 can get healthy again and move on. I don't think it's completely hopeless. But I think the networks have spoken quite loudly, and I think that's going to get reported on once this whole thing comes to an end.
So say the numbers are correct.
Yep.
Say that the 14 to 20 million or something, 14 to 18 million of the blended Fox and ESPN offer, whatever range that is currently. If that was the case, that could be true. But I think the more important information is actually the initial valuations that were equal.
Yeah.
Because that's telling of, if we're talking about a 25-year decision, then we can't just look at the 5 to 7 year, getting less money for 5 to 7 years when you could maybe align with the schools you want to align and then offset that in the future. So I think that it's just economics here, supply and demand kind of coming into play, not necessarily a selection of teams or a conference they want to be aligned more with. I just think that Yormark jumped the line, great play strategically, but we still have pretty similar valued schools and conferences. So really, who do you want to align with in the long term? I would think that I would hope that the presidents would have that long-sightedness, to have that view, to have that look, and say, hey, this is a long-term decision. We're going to take some less money in the short term, but we're going to align ourselves with who we want to be aligned with, not align with somebody that we might not want to.
I think you're bringing up fantastic points. And in the end, the Pac-10 presidents may agree with that, right? They may agree with that. We're going to get hit here in the next 5 years, but we're going to remain aligned with the schools we want to align with, our peer institutions, right? And hopefully the market changes. Hopefully we progress, get through these 5 years and hit it hard, get a deal done before the Big 12 comes back to market. That 5-year deal, right? It gets in before, well, no, it doesn't. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It gets in before the next Big 12 deal. Whatever. You're absolutely, a lot of people agree with you, and you're saying it way better than I could ever say it.
Yeah, it's just some food for thought.
Yeah.
I mean, these things. This is a big, huge decision for CU, Utah, ASU, and like you're talking about long-term relationships with a lot of alignment, culturally, academically. Like, I mean, that means a lot. So you better make sure this is a good 10, 20, 30-year move. And I'm hoping that they're having those conversations. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thanks, Greg. Happy birthday again.
Yeah, thank you. Fantastic phone call. I love your call, sir. Thank you. Great phone call. Wild Oot, Mr. Utah man. He brings up a lot of good points, like he always does. He always makes you think just a little bit more, a little bit wider on the issue. I appreciate it. Peek around the corners. Wild Oot. Dave, Old Donuts. ESPN are laying off personalities. Bud Light may not be investing. ESPN, layoffs. We do have a media market recession. Bad timing. Well, not bad timing. It was bad decision-making by the Pac-12. But here we are. Now, Arizona State Money Perch in this last letter also said that the problem is, and the reason why he believes, and others that he talked to, that this is coming to a conclusion in the middle of May.
Call from
Western Civic.
Western Civic, the floor is yours, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Happy 55th.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Did you listen? Did you read the Colorado's Chancellor's comments? Because you are a firm believer that Colorado, no way, no how, is moving to the Big 12.
And isn't that what the article said? That's what I mean. Come on, guys.
Nah, not really. But go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm a student of politics, and I certainly am aware of the phenomenon of confirmation bias. This stuff coming out of the Big 12 is just off the charts. I don't know how it infiltrated a good gopher of gold from the Big Ten like yourself, but my goodness, Greg. And you missed the whole lead. I mean, this is actually an extremely important article. And I presume this just sort of came together because of the Prime situation. And so they decided, well, we'll go interview, the Chancellor. And look, and again, just like we know about the PAC, the commissioners don't speak. The schools speak for themselves, right? And what we saw here was there's tons of information in here. I have reevaluated everything I think because of this article, but it has nothing to do with anything you're talking about. Nothing at all, in fact. I mean, look at what is said. I mean, first of all, right off the bat, he poo-poos the Big 12. Okay, he doesn't even. And then he goes on.
But he did. Wait a second.
Yeah.
The author said he poo-pooed. He didn't poo-poo it, though. He did not.
Oh. Well, okay. Well, then you're insinuating that the author of the article is misleading you.
No, I just think he used a phrase that I wouldn't have used. That's all.
See, that's what I mean, Greg. You have a theory, and it doesn't matter what anybody writes or says. You don't think that it supports your theory.
No.
Let me
go ahead.
Let's get into I really want to get into what was important about this article because there's some really important stuff in this article.
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay, looking at the logic of what we know, okay, the first thing that's important is what everybody's saying. No one has asked us.
Oh.
Okay, that's huge, right? Okay, then right there, we now know they're not going to the Big this year. Okay, that whole theory, whatever I was thinking, at least Colorado is out. They're not going to the Big this year. Okay, we know that. And then he also goes on to say that no one else is going anywhere either.
Right.
Okay,
he didn't say that.
He said that. Now, if you want to believe, now
I have it up. Do you have your phone with you? Can you see the screen of the article?
I can't. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I've got it up. I've got it up.
Okay.
And he said, I've said along with the other presidents and chancellors is we're not going to even think about going anywhere. None of us until we see what kind of offer we get. He did not say none of us are going anywhere. And when it comes to nobody asked us, I shouldn't even say that. Conferences don't ask you to come join the conference. You either come to agreement or conferences don't ask until they know you're coming in. So, but go ahead with the rest of your phone call. I am willing to hear anything outside of my information bias silo that I'm in. So that's why I love having you on and others. But I got the article right in front of everybody.
Okay, well, you still haven't even hit the most important, the
Go
lead
ahead.
of the article.
Go ahead.
The lead of the article, it confirms what we heard a while ago.
Yep.
Here we have, for the first time, a PAC chancellor mentioning Kansas. That's the lead of the article, okay? He goes on to talk about AAU and how important that is.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what have we been talking about? If there's no big expansion this year, it's the GPAC 16.
Okay.
And here's the other thing.
Yeah.
For him to come out today, there's no way they're going to leave a chancellor hanging out to dry like this to make a statement that they think they're going to be the third best. They're not going to hang him out there to dry if he doesn't have good reason to believe that. And here's why he can say that. Because the PAC is adding monster markets. San Diego, Hawaii, the state of Kansas, Houston, Dallas, New Orleans. That's a monster conference with some monster markets, with some marginal teams that are about to get really a whole lot better. And a path to redemption for teams like SMU and Tulane with storied histories. I think in the future, Tulane will end up back in the SEC. But for now, the PAC provides them a path back to the power conferences and a way to rebuild their program in the modern world where they, had sort of trouble adjusting to where they want to do with sports, in the face of the SEC and being an AAU and an excellent, excellent academic institution, which the PAC would envy all day long. And it brings the New Orleans market. So you essentially, those numbers you just rallied off, okay, about how bad the offer was, that was half. That's half the markets of what you're going to have with the 16 teams.
You're going to have more slices. You're going to have more slices with 16 teams. So you're going to have to really...
but see, none of them except Kansas is going to get anywhere near an equal share.
I don't know what you
say that.
I'm not sure why you bring Kansas is not going to the Pac-12.
I think there's a real good hint in that article that
Kansas.
they are.
Okay, Kansas has already signed a grant of rights.
Yeah, and what else did we know? We had another comment just here earlier talking about how the ACC is about to get hit. And that comes from Swain, and I've been saying that for a while.
They're not about to get hit. People are going to have to go to. People are going to have to go to the courts.
I don't think they will. I don't think they will because all they need, the ACC will only need 8 teams, and all Kansas needs is the Kansas State Legislature. Okay. Yeah. And that's it. And so look, if the pattern is just down, and maybe it's going to happen. Later in the year, if the ACC breaks, and the story that came out today from Swain is that they're going to break up before the football season this year, and that just broke. So, and there's another angle here that is for my Utes that really stinks. Okay, because what do we know now? We know that and I don't think this is going to happen because I don't think they're going to leave a Colorado chancellor out to dry. But if you want to talk cloak and dagger.
Yes.
The one other possibility that's here is that the 4 remaining PAC West Coast teams are bailing and they're not telling anybody else about it. And that would probably mean Utah's out too, which means that then you would have to reevaluate. But I still don't think they're going to the Lubbock. They would build something new. So that would leave the three AAU. That would leave 3 Pac AAU schools remaining, assuming Arizona's not going. That would be Arizona, Colorado, and Utah. And from there, you build something new. I think. I still don't think you go to the big. And I think there is a third conference being built, but the third conference is for non-AAU schools. So, Greg, I think your instinct is right. The third conference is going to be the Big 12, not the Pac. Mm-hmm. And this is an interim move, okay?
Yeah.
The Pac-16 is an interim move. You're going to see redemption of Tulane. You're going to see redemption of SMU. You're going to see Hawaii turn into a P5. That was just, can you imagine?
I can't. I'm sorry.
I think it'll give them some years. Yeah. I mean, there's some Pac schools that may not like that because they may lose their Polynesian pipeline.
Yeah.
but I also think, excuse me, I just pulled over to the side of the road because here you go live again. But I think it's a cultural imperative. If the Pac expands, especially if they go to 6 teams, I think it'd be really weird if they didn't take Hawaii.
Got it.
Especially for their woke selves.
Yeah. Okay, but
and Hawaii is an R1. Okay, Hawaii is an R1.
Yeah.
As is Colorado State.
Okay.
And
hold on.
Okay, respond.
Hold on. This is the problem I have. I understand Pac-12 universities wanting to stay together. They are with their peers. They want to stay together. They've been together for decades. They're Pac-12. They're large research universities. The AAU, they look down on the Big 12 just like the Big 10 does. I get all that. But then it doesn't make any sense to me, no logic whatsoever, to say we're not going to the Lubbock Conference, but I'll tell you what, when we expand with this conference, we're going to add a bunch of teams that are not a large research universities, that are not AAU, that have no similarity, no commonality, no historic, no geography, no ties to whatever any Pac-12 schools or the conference. That I do not understand. Let me
explain it to you.
That's where it all spins off.
The Pac's full of snobs, man. And SMU is loaded. SMU is the one on the list that has no business being there. They have no business being there. They're an R2, but they just have all the money.
No offense to SMU. No offense to SMU, but they were below Houston, BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, and a few other schools, by the way. And suddenly, the Pac-12, some of the Pac-12 universities, we would never associate ourselves with the Big 12 schools. Oh, wait, let's bring in SMU. I think this is a matter of survival. I just think that I think that logic doesn't work anymore when you're starting to add on the Hawaii's, the SMU. I appreciate your comments. I do. I don't.
I'm not necessarily defending all of it. I'm just telling you what's happening.
Okay.
This is what I really believe is happening at this point.
Yeah.
And the lead in the story is the Chancellor mentioning Kansas. Okay, that's the lead of the story.
He's only mentioning Kansas because they're the one AAU school of the Big 12.
Exactly.
But he's not mentioning Kansas as they know they're not going to get Kansas into the Pac-12. That's not happening. Why would Kansas, this incredible basketball brand, where they have the Big 12 basketball tournament in Kansas City, why would they leave the biggest, best brand basketball conference in the nation to go to the Pac-12 that is struggling? Okay.
You guys just cannot digest this whole thing. This whole thing is about the AAU.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
It is.
No, it isn't.
It is. It really is.
No, it's about.
It is. Isn't that what the Colorado? That's the second lead of the article.
I get it.
It's important.
Wait. AAU is shorthand for big time research university valuable research university. And if I'm a big, large research universities, I want to stay together with other large research universities. Okay? AAU is a private organization. It is. It's a private group. A conference, like I have this talk with people all the time. The Big Ten Conference is not going to allow the AAU, a private organization, which has all the Big Ten schools included except for Nebraska, but they're not going to let AAU determine who they can invite and not invite into the conference. If you're not an AAU member, there's no way you can get into the Big Ten. That is an absolute myth. It is. It just so happens that the Big Ten schools, because they're large research universities, are all AAU, but Nebraska. Michigan State was a Big Ten. They got invited to the Big Ten. In the 1950s, University of Minnesota sponsored Michigan State. Michigan State did not become AAU until 8 years after. The Pac-12 sitting here talking about SMU, and you're saying Hawaii and these other schools, they're not AAU. San Diego State's not AAU. So obviously it's not just about AAU. There's other factors. There's the bigger story at hand. And once again, go ahead. The networks, I agree with that. They don't control all of this, but they do control about 80, 85, 90% of it. The networks are playing a huge part in this. They're not AAU. They're playing a huge part in this. And I think they've spoken loudly from what we know, or what we believe to know. They have spoken loudly on what they think the future of the Pac-12 is. They want it broken apart.
Yeah,
Will it break apart? I don't know. But they might. But they want it. They want those assets. They think those assets, those universities are more valuable in other conferences that are more national.
And I thought that was an extremely astute observation. You take a packed football game that today is getting X million viewers, and you make it a big game, Big Ten game, where all of a sudden, it becomes relevant to the whole Midwest, and you get double the views.
That's what the networks want. Will they get it?
So yeah, I agree. I think, we already know. We're going to 3 super conferences, I think.
Yeah.
I think the third one will be whatever's left of the Big 12. And the big, I hope, is going to swallow most of the pack. But like I say, there could be a cloak and dagger thing. But if it is, they really hung that Colorado Chancellor out to dry.
Well,
if the four other coastal schools, Cal, Stanford, Oregon, and Washington, are planning on leaving cloak and dagger here right away, boy, that was dirt they pulled on the Colorado guy right there. So I just don't see that happening.
Okay, thanks for the call. I got a whole bunch of calls lined up.
All right,
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Greg.
Yeah.
Look, the other thing is there are 3 non-AAU schools in the pack already, so your point is taken. Oregon State, Washington State, and Arizona State. They're longtime members, and they're not AAU either. It's an aspiration. It doesn't align 100%.
Yes.
But if you want to look for an indicator that's really obvious, it's the best way to go. And look, they're talking about adding 3 AAU and 3 non-AAU.
Got it.
And SMU just has the money in the market and the history. And there are a bunch of oligarchs over there that,
Okay.
There are. That's like the big Dallas oligarchs from SMU. That's what's going on. The Pac's full of... I'm not defending it.
I understand. I understand.
That was the lead of the article, is you have a Pac Chancellor finally mentioning...
I got it. We'll go through the article again. I got to get to the next call. Thank you so much.
Happy
Appreciate
birthday,
it.
man.
Appreciate it. Okay, next call.
Call from
Ryan Martin.
Ryan Martin is in the house. The floor is yours, sir. What do you got to say?
Oh, I have a lot, my friend. I have a lot. first of all, how are you today? Happy birthday.
Doing good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
First off, Kansas is not leaving the Big 12. The situation in the Pac-12, they have no media deal. There's not one that's close, at least according to both insiders who are leaking rumors, as well as Pac mouthpieces who are putting things out there. They're saying nothing is coming, at least not anytime soon. Early summer at the earliest, right?
Yeah.
Kansas is not going to pay $100 million plus having to pay however much the actual buyout would be for a 7-year deal at this point to the Big 12 and to Fox and ESPN to leave for whatever deal the Pac manages to put together. That's just not happening. The only way that they are leaving is if they are leaving for the Big Ten or the SEC.
Yeah.
And to me, this is one of those things. And I commented this on your video earlier about what the Colorado Chancellor put out there. He doesn't deny that a move is possible.
Yeah.
He just says they're not going to do it.
And none of them are denying it. Yep.
Yeah, he's not going to do it before they see a deal, which is fairly consistent with all of the rhetoric behind from Arizona President Robbins and everything about this. They will move if their hand is forced, but they're not going to do it just yet. Sorry. I'm trying not to get amped up.
No problem.
We've been dealing with that for a little while.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The whole AAU thing is blown way out of proportion because of the value that the Big Ten has historically placed on that association. But just because there is the AAU does not mean that any of these other schools are not doing lots and lots of research, millions and billions of dollars in research. 10 of the 12 members of the Big 12 are Carnegie R1 research institutions. The AAU specifically, they focus on medical. That is their huge thing, is medical research, pharmaceutical stuff, all of that jazz. The Big 12, and this is just something that's just kind of historically grown out of the divide that different institutions have done within the history of the United States. It's just the California system is one that really just highlights this. You have the Cal University system, which is research institutions as well as traditionally higher educational things like legal degrees, doctors, those kinds of people. Then you have the Cal State system, which is primarily engineering, mechanical, agricultural stuff. It's about getting people education so that way they can do jobs. It's not about research. It's about getting people to graduate so they are better prepared to serve in the workforce of the state of California. And then the community college even drills down even further, and it's the same thing but at a lower level than the state college system. And so colleges like Oklahoma State, for example, it's an agricultural mechanical college. That's what it started out as. That's where a lot of its research is focused, which is not the focus of the AAU. That's why Oklahoma State is not an AAU member, and why many of the schools, because the other thing, in order to become an AAU member, you have to be sponsored by another AAU school and then voted to be added into it. They like to keep that membership nice and close and tight.
Yeah.
I know it's been a bit since they even added an AAU school, to my knowledge. So it's kind of an exclusive thing, and that's why Kevin Warren was kind of hitting it pretty hard for the Big Ten. Like, yeah, no, we're not going to let a private organization that has its own membership rules dictate who we can and can't add.
Yeah,
that's not a thing.
It's just, it's one of the, it is the biggest myth out there on message boards and social media. Jim Delaney said, we'll look at AAU schools first, but not only. He said it. It's never been only AAU. Notre Dame is not the only exception. It's just, but it's impossible. I've given up trying to break through on that myth. Yes, most schools, maybe all the schools that the Big Ten invites for the next 30 years, they might be all AAU because Big Ten wants to have research institutions in the conference, but AAU status is not the finality of their decision. It just isn't. Yeah. But go ahead, keep going.
No, it's a plus. It's a nice value add to your application package. Yes, we're an AAU member. That's a little status symbol you can add to your application package, but it's not going to be the end all be all.
Yeah,
it's going to separate you from the rest of the applicant pool, so to speak.
Yeah.
The one thing that's kind of been interesting to me lately, and this is kind of separate from the conversation we've had about the Colorado Chancellor today, is the renewed emphasis on the easier pathway to the college football playoffs.
John Wilner
championship.
Yeah.
That John Wilner put out.
Yeah.
And it's like you do know that on a pretty consistent basis, this is the way I envisioned it kind of mapping out. And even looking at last year, it kind of proved me right that in a P5 or in a world where the P5 continues to exist, where there's the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big 12. The SEC is going to get in three teams every single year. That's just how it's going to be. The Big Ten is going to get in at least 2 every year. And then they will duke out for an at-large spot that will either get the SEC 4 teams or the Big Ten up to 3. Then the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the ACC will all 3 get their champs in, obviously. But then they will also duke out for an individual at-large spot. And then finally, there will be the G5 champion and a final at-large spot that everybody kind of fights for. So in general, and even looking at last year, that's how it kind of played out. The top 11 were or included Washington,
all the Power 5 conferences. Tulane would have gotten the 12th spot.
Yeah, and it was three SEC, 3 Big Ten.
Yeah.
The ACC, or excuse me, the Pac-12 and the Big 12 got 2 at-large bids, got 2 bids apiece, and then it was the G5
Tulane.
champ in Tulane
Yep.
and the ACC champ. That's how it broke out. So in a conference where you're going to have between 3 and 4 positions in any given year in that's much higher than 1 or 2. That's a much bigger chance, even though the conference is larger. 18 teams, it's like something between like 16 and 22% chance that you're going to make it compared to like a flat 10 to 20.
Yeah.
Depending on how many that you can get. So, point being that's just kind of busted.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'm going to say, because I've been rambling for a minute, it's not the first time, or the comments by the Colorado Chancellor today would not be the first time that a school official has come out and said, no, we're not leaving. We're not going to move. And then within weeks, breaking news, X school is leaving for X conference. Texas and OU did it back in 2021 when the news of their potential move to the SEC got leaked. Yeah. I believe Texas's admin was quoted as saying, I'm tired of going down the realignment wormhole every single offseason, and just kind of dismissed it that way without saying, no, we're not leaving. Yeah. It's the exact same thing both Robbins and, Di Stefano? I don't know how to say his name.
Yeah.
But the Colorado Chancellor has said. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Pass it on to the next person.
Happy
birthday again, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Great call. Thank you very much. Okay, let me just
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan, can you hold on for a minute? I just want to
Sure,
hit some spots in the chat.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Jared Jones, thank you so much for the super chat. Mr. Buckeye, thank you for your generosity, your continued generosity to the show. I appreciate you so very much. You help us keep the lights on here in the Gopher by the Grace of God studios. Thank you, Jared Jones. Appreciate it. Secret Agent, the mug has been ordered. Secret Agent out there in Lubbock, probably. Texas Tech. He's got his Cloak and Dagger mug coming. Thank you so much. Very good. Appreciate it. J-Rod 112278. Appreciate you coming in. Greg, I love the show, but the love of God, stop putting Western Civic on. Well, here at Peek Around the Corner, we put anybody on the phone lines that call. As long as people are not going into hate speech or not drilling into other people in the chat room, it's okay if they drill into me. It's okay if they troll me or if they really get into me, disagree with me on something. But as long as you're not using hate speech, as long as you're not going out after somebody, using the phone line to go out after somebody in the chat, we are going to accept your phone call. We're going to roll with it. We have incredible diverse opinions on this show, just the way we like it. This is a national college football program, so there are going to be calls that people just aren't going to get into. Heck, most of you can't get into what I'm saying, so that's how it is on Peek Around the Corner. So just roll with the punches. I appreciate you all coming in. Again, go ahead. The floor is yours, Ryan. Appreciate you calling.
Well, Greg, I might break one of those rules. I think Smiley Face and Faux Profile Boy are passing out the Kool-Aid in the bunker right now in the Pac-12. Wilner's article just it made me laugh just to death. I think by his logic, San Diego State could just stay in the Mountain West and win and get that 6th automatic bid because it would be an easy into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, the goalposts are shifting, and it's just kind of comical because if Di Stefano and the Pac-12 chancellors and presidents actually really believe what he's saying, and they're not just setting a marker down to kind of provide cover to leave later, then that's got to be the dumbest group of human beings ever assembled, because and they of course have a great track record of wonderful decision making, such as the terrific hires of Larry Scott and George Kliakoff. Who essentially, George Kliakoff is the Michael Scott of conference commissioners. I'm not sure that he has something brilliant up his sleeve, but yeah, they can keep believing that they're going to get $35 to $40 million per school on the most linear deal. That's great. Tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and find out that I won the Powerball, Greg. But it's just kind of a crazy thing. But
I do want to float something out here because, as I mentioned before, and some people had asked me this question. Now, some people said to me, this is going to be, the reality is this is going to be mostly a streaming deal. And if you're Amazon and you don't get the first pick, what stops Amazon from going to the Big Ten saying, hey, we'll pay the freight on Oregon and Washington. You take them, they can come in at a discount, so you're all going to be making a couple extra $1 million a year. And, it doesn't really make any difference to Oregon and Washington because if they're going to be on heavy streaming anyway with Apple, why not be on streaming with the Big Ten where the audiences will at least be bigger and will, probably get more steam rather than be regionalized? Go ahead, Greg.
Interesting comment. I don't think Amazon needs the number. They're not going for the number one pick for the Pac-12 games.
But what's in it for them, though? Because, on streaming, you're talking about 500,000 viewers in the Pacific Coast time zone. Those streaming games, the viewership number, I looked into that, they go from anywhere from 300K to, 600,000. It's not great. And, that's not really a broad-based appeal for them, for people to click on their links to buy their products or sign up for Prime or whatever what they do. It's kind of like it's kind of a waste of time. So and as Bob Thompson said, and I've learned too in my life at M&A, the Pac-12 fans need to realize Amazon and Apple understand this concept. Sometimes the best deals you make are the ones you never make. And, I don't think that, they're not going to go in there and sign a bad deal unless they get something that they want. For Apple, I can totally understand why they want tier one rights because, that's an excuse for them to get out and get subscriptions and to sell that and to promote themselves because they've got to have a product that they're going to promote. They're not going to go out there and then, let Amazon or ESPN pick the top matchups, for more money and then consequently undermine their own product. Nobody does that. It astounds me the lack of common sense and the lack of logic. Supposedly the Big 12 not good enough for some of these Pac-12 schools, but yeah, let's add SMU, let's add in Tulane, let's add in, Hawaii, let's add in, Rice or whatever. Yeah, that's great. You can shoot that AAU horn all you want, but nobody really cared about it until, Bob Delaney mentioned it once in passing as a secondary comment that wasn't even germane to the topic. It's sort of, the reason why the Big Ten cares about AAU status is because they actually have a formal consortium. The Pac-12 does not. When you have a formal consortium, research consortium, then that stuff does matter. But, it's another excuse that people throw out there, and I'm not sure who the propaganda artists are. I know that Canzano's out there doing his gaslighting on, it turns out that there's absolutely zero truth to the Fresno State comment that Canzano was throwing out there. But, let's go ahead and, accuse Big 12 and on and everything like that. It's great. Just the projecting and the gaslighting is just spectacular. And ultimately, it's fantasy land. If they would have gotten $35 to $40 million on a linear deal, this would have been done back in, November. But it's not, and they are where they're at. And if they actually believe this garbage, they deserve to fail. They have a history. They have a history of horrible decision making. So, if they actually believe it, it's part and parcel for who and what they are. But, all I have to say is just, folks, what really matters is whether or not you're a Carnegie R1 or R2 institution. And, just put aside the snobbery, folks, because, it's nice. And I hate to tell you this, Pac-12ers, I hate to tell you this. You go 5 years in the streaming wilderness, or you're stuck on bad time slots at the CW or ION or the 10:30 ESPN slot. Guess what happens in those 5 years when you don't have any coverage? Your brand value as a whole decreases, and that makes you less valuable for the next round of realignment. And, you're never going to be the third power conference poaching people if you're regionalized the way you are. And I don't think Kliavkoff is smart enough to even make that or effectuate that. I mean, the guy's probably, he's lucky enough that he can even get math right on the back of an envelope. But I mean, I'm riled up, Greg. So I
understand.
I'm just gonna just leave it there. But just to all these Pac-12 homers out there, you guys, I'm gonna enjoy the ride. I mean, it's just gonna be fun, and just let me know what barbecue sauce you want with your crow, folks, and I'll gladly serve it up when it comes time. I'm out, Greg.
All right. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Okay, getting back to the question that was asked in there. What would Amazon see in a Pac-12? I can see Amazon being interested in the Pac-12. I kind of understand it. Having a Pac-12 game on a Friday night. Amazon was really interested in getting part of the Big Ten media package. The reason, and they bid higher than CBS and NBC. CBS and NBC both went to $350 million a year for their package of game for Big Ten content. Mostly they're going to rotate the second and third pick each week. It sounds like they both might get a number one pick during the year. That hasn't been really clarified yet. I'm not even sure if everything's been settled yet within the Big Ten and with their new media partners and how all of it's going to work. Amazon went over the top. They didn't get the deal because Big Ten is very wary about going into streaming at this point in time. They were interested. Amazon, there was some reports they went to $380 million. The reason why Amazon was interested in Big Ten content, and it's less, but I understand the interest that Amazon would have in Pac-12 content is in Big Ten country, in the metropolitan areas. The national advertisers love to advertise during Big Ten live sports because the demographics of the Big Ten buy the products and services of the national advertisers. And I'm not going to get into the deep weeds on that, but a lot of that, the boosters, the big money people, and the money perch, they wanted the city of Los Angeles to become a Big Ten, part of the Big Ten country. In the Pac-12, it's the same thing. There's a lot of purchase power in Pac-12 country. Now, the advertisers would love if there was more eyeballs on the Pac-12 content. And that's been declining. That's an issue. But I can see why Amazon would want a Friday night game, pay pretty decent for it, for an for a Pac-12 game every Friday night. I can see their interest. I believe they have been interested from the very beginning when they couldn't get into the Big Ten. And I can see Amazon trying to get into the college football space, just trying to get in there. They're not going to get in there with the SEC. They're not going to get in there with the Big Ten unless they decide to pay the freight for Washington and Oregon. Of course, they're not going to get in the ACC. They're not going to get into the Big 12. So this is their last chance maybe in this cycle unless they pay the freight for Washington and Oregon. So I understand the Amazon interest in Pac-12 country. I really do. Just to answer that question. Okay, we'll get back to the phone calls here. We'll open it back up. (763-260-1333) Spring football. Sam Hartman, he was on fire. The Notre Dame. He's got to be quarterback number one. Tyler Buckner struggled. Arch Manning struggled. Some quarterbacks struggled out there. I'm sorry, I didn't get the name.
Lewis.
Oh, Lewis. Lewis is in the house. Thanks for calling. Did you see
I
what
never thought I would say this, but it's great to be back in balmy Pittsburgh after being in Michigan this week.
Okay.
Pittsburgh's just downright ready to jump in the pool down here. It's just so cold.
Yeah, well,
I know it's even worse in Minnesota.
Yeah, it has. It's been a brutal April. Yep.
Well, fascinating experience. My son played a couple soccer games on the campus at the University of Michigan, won them both. But when you see it, I hear that perhaps Michigan will be breaking ground on a $20 million stadium for their ultimate frisbee team next week.
Wow.
Because they literally have a stadium for every sport, and every stadium's first class. Their field hockey stadium, their lacrosse stadium has covered bleachers, boxes, and you can see where the $100 million a year that's coming in on TV revenue alone for the Big Ten is really going to help those schools get way ahead, not just in football and basketball, but in all the sports. And it's incredible to see. If you want to see a real, if you're ever in that area and you want to see a good illustration of the haves and have-nots, drive the 8 miles or so from the big house in the University of Michigan's athletic campus to Rynearson Stadium in eastern Michigan, the factory, where they have the bleachers covered. I mean, it's a Spartan, nice little stadium, but it's hard to believe that those two schools play at the same level in college football. And it does beg to think that at some point there will be a breakaway because they're really on two different levels.
Oh, yeah. There's a gap. There's a gap between Kalamazoo, Western Michigan versus Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan is just hanging on by its threads. I mean, it's the poorest of the poor when it comes to the MAC schools. But go ahead, Louis.
Absolutely. So interesting. So I'll give to that. It was an interesting weekend and definitely portends for where we're going in the future, where I think there will be a breakaway of the schools. But looking at the Colorado comment, 2 points. First, these were almost the same talking points 1 month later that Robbins delivered around March 16th, actually about 5 weeks later.
Sir.
And so they were, if this was the deal and we think it's going to be bigger in the Big 12, they both said that. Where's the deal? It's been 5 weeks. How long is it taking to get the deal that's better than the Big 12? Maybe there is one. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt there is one, but I want to know who. And why would they wait? What benefit is it to wait if it's a linear deal? A linear deal in the $32 million range. Where is it?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but boy, this would be, it would be the Houdini. I mean, Kliavkoff should open his own theater in Vegas at his old employer, MGM. Is that where he worked? And be a Houdini act if he pulls a linear package, an NBC, a CBS, a Fox, an ESPN, paying $32 million a year for this collection of schools. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
But here's one other point. That's my first point. My second point, as the member of the directors, you might remember this a little bit from the University of Missouri's president when he played a role in keeping the Big 12 together, then they left a month later. As a member of the board of directors, the presidents have a fiduciary duty to the conference. So they cannot come out and say publicly until they disclose internally anything that's going to be adverse to the Pac-12. So I wouldn't read too much. He's giving the same speech.
Yeah.
We'll see where the deal is, but it's clear they want to stay together. I'll take them at their face value. The presidents want to stay together, but I feel like Kliavkoff is like the auctioneer. The market price for the steer is $1.50 a pound, and he's not taking any bids under $2. Well, how much longer does the auctioneer sit there before he has to fish or cut bait? That's the question.
I think a couple more
we'll see
weeks.
What happens. I hope it's a couple more weeks. Who knows how long that'll go. June 30th, the absolute last day, because that's when San Diego State. But that's where I think it is. It'll be interesting to see. Great show, Greg. Thanks for covering it on.
Things.
Have a great day.
Hold on, Louis. Sure. Stay right there. I was going to say 2 things, and I already forgot. One of them. Well, first of all, I see in the comments section that you were blocked when calling. That's only because sometimes after these long calls, I have to clean up something in the chat. I want to talk about something, and I put the do not disturb for a moment. So if you call and if you get like a block or whatever, for you, Louis, and anybody else, I'm not blocking you. We're just hitting a pause and then I'll open up the phone lines again. But Lewis, you are a legend here at Peek Around the Corner. Your calls are legendary. I'm so happy you call us, so please keep calling us. You bring so much to the show. It's unbelievable. I just want to put that across to you, sir.
Well, I didn't know. That's just new because when I've called before, it just goes into a loop. It doesn't actually block it. So I thought, well, Greg's had enough of me for the week.
No, never. And that goes with the no, never. And what was my second point? Man, am I losing it? Something you yeah. I got it. Let me make this point. When you said the Chancellor of Colorado, first of all, this is the guy who doesn't even really make the decision anyways. It's the president. I've been told that by some really people that are in the know. So let's
I assumed he was the decision maker.
Yeah, but
I don't know Colorado that well.
But either way, okay. But you're right when you say that there's no president that's going to come out. We still have to dissect the statements. We still break it down, right? We try to connect dots, cloak and dagger. But there's no president, like you said, Lewis, is going to come out and say, geez, we really might leave this conference. We're not really committed. They don't talk that way. They can't talk that way, like you said, Lewis. But, there's people out there in social media that every time a president comes out and says, we're committed to the Big 12, Lewis, you have brought up a lot of examples in the past, going to the Big East. Other people have as well. But we're at this time where anytime someone says we're committed to the Pac-12, you got people on social media saying, ha, there it is. Anybody who says that the Pac-12, a school could be leaving to the Big 12, they've been lying to you. You know what? I got a feeling that for some people out there in social media, some of these people have got all these diplomas on their wall. I got a feeling that this is their very first rodeo. You know what I'm saying? They don't know how this is. They don't know the terminology. They do not know how the game is played. They have no understanding of cloak and dagger. They haven't been watching the show. They think this just because they were a professor somewhere and a consultant somewhere and they got 6 diplomas hanging on the wall and they got charts. They understand the language. They don't. They clearly do not know what they're talking about. I'm sorry to say that.
Yeah. I remember University of Missouri. I followed it closely as a West Virginia fan at the time because had Missouri stayed in the Big 12 somehow, West Virginia may have very well gone to the SEC in 2011. Yeah. But Missouri, of course, saw the writing on the wall. Unlike some other schools at that time, the ACC, that didn't see the writing and stayed in the ACC. Missouri left. But that president, or that chancellor, whatever he was the head of the board and worked tirelessly about a month before they left to keep the league together when he had the departure of Texas A&M.
Yes.
And so when it looked like at that point there was going to be another move to the Pac-12, and that didn't happen. The president of Missouri kept it together. So he was leading that charge, and then a month later, they're gone. And so when you look at that example, that tells you the winds can change quickly.
Yes, it gets really fluid. It gets fluid at the end, right? At the last couple weeks, and that's, we've been given a little intel from Arizona State Money Perch and others. The middle of May, first 2 weeks of May, that might get real. They call it the hot bubble. It might get real fluid in there. So you're absolutely right, Lewis.
They're going to get a deal where they're not. But Jim Williams out there talking about streaming is contrary to what the Four Corner Schools presidents are saying, where they want linear. Except Williams said the Trump was linear. Well, I just don't see the deal happening, but they could certainly pull it out. But if you're Kliavkoff, you can't come to them until you have a deal that they're going to accept, and that's why it's taking so long.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear on what Jim Williams said, though. He said Apple TV wants the entire Tier 1 Pac-12 package. He said want. It doesn't mean they're going to get it. And he doesn't, and Jim Williams did not report that the Pac-12 presidents consider that the lead horse in these negotiations. He said Apple TV wants the entire Tier 1. Very important distinction from what Jim Williams said and what a lot of people believe he said. I'm just throwing that out there. Yeah.
But there is no linear that's ESPN is laying off. The big news of ESPN are laying off people. I'd be shocked if they come in at $320 million for the Pac-12 package. NBC with USA Network. They might come in for $100 million, $150 million. They're not coming in for $300 million. I would be shocked if they come in for $300 million. CBS, the CBS Sports Network game on CBS, is that really viable? There's been no rumors of that. That would be a shock. And Fox. Fox would come in, as I said before, at a cheap rate. They'd come in at a yard sale price, which I don't know that Kliavkoff can afford to accept. So it's just going to take some time. We just have to wait it out. We'll see what happens. Either they're going to get a deal or not. It's going to get to that range or not. I don't think we can count the Big Ten doing anything, although that's possible. And let's just, it'll be over within 2 months, maybe in a month and a half.
Yeah.
And I'll be glad when it's over. And I personally will not engage in people on social media. This fighting back and forth is just ridiculous. I stay out of it. We just look at objectively, look at the facts and try to see what's going to happen. And I'm not going to predict what's going to happen, but it doesn't sound like they're getting a deal unless they're just doing a very good job of keeping that inner circle quiet and keeping leaks from happening. But as we all know, Greg, leaks have happened a lot in all of this. And if they were really on something hot and they were going to get to $350 million, it would be a leak, I would think.
It would be leaked. It would be absolutely leaked. Lewis,
have a great week, Greg.
I'll let you off the phone. I'll let you off the phone, but I'm going to hammer on what you just said at the end of that phone call. In agreement, by the way. Thank you so very much.
Have a great weekend. Have a great rest of your weekend, Greg. Have a great week. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Call from
Immaculate.
Can you just hold on? I got to hammer on a point here.
Go for it.
Is that okay? Lewis said at the end of his call, another great call, but at the end of it, he says if they were onto something, on a big deal, if they were hot on something, that would bring in, now I'm paraphrasing Lewis here. He didn't say these exact words. But if there was a deal out there, more 50% linear, $32, $33 million per school, $35 million per school, that they were getting close to that type of deal, there would be leaks. We would have some sort of detail on it, some sort of intel on it, somewhere, some way. They wouldn't lock that up. Why would they lock that up? My goodness, they're in a messaging war right now that they're losing badly on. Of course there'd be leaks. There were leaks all over the place on the Big Ten media deal. We didn't know the exact deal, but man, we were getting intel. People were leaking to Andrew Michon and John Oran saying this, that, CBS, NBC. We come on. And of course they would be positive leaks. If there was something to leak about positively in this Pac-12 deal. Lewis hit upon it. And I'm ashamed that I haven't said that earlier or thought about it in that way. Lewis is absolutely 100% correct. Where is the positive leaks? If they've got a deal hot to trot here in the next 2 weeks that's going to pay him $32, $33 million per school per year, decently linear, right? Way to the linear, over 50%. ESPN, maybe throw a little bit of Ion, CW, but it gets you about 65, whatever. More linear than streaming. You got a streaming partner. Maybe not as good exposure, but the money is there. It's sustainable. Maybe you can get through the next 5 years. All the schools would sign it. If they had that, they'd be leaking that. Instead of this John Casano saying, well, the Fox Sports, they're still in the mix of it. And then everybody's saying, all the other reporters saying, no, Fox is not. Haven't talked to Pac-12 for months. Great point, Lewis. I'm sorry. I had to go on a rant because, my goodness, that was a great point. Immaculate Brian, thanks for holding. The floor is yours, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. It's turning into a competitive sport just to get in on your show now. You're so damn popular.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's tough. I like this phone. I like this Google Voice because the quality of it is so good. But I can't put people on hold. I can't line them up. So it's difficult. I understand. But I thanks for people. Keep trying. Try to get in. I appreciate it. But again, Immaculate, the floor is yours.
Well, I was going to start with something else. So first I'll say I 100% agree with him. And I do believe we've talked about it in the past, so I'll give yourself a little bit of credit for hitting on it, but it's probably one of those things that with all the things to think about and talk about on here, it just kind of gets swept aside. But there would 100% be some good news put out if the PAC headquarters and these schools could ease some pressure. Because they're feeling the pressure about this. Like, everyone's talking about this. This is like all the networks, anyone involved, this is all over Twitter. They would 100% have one of these guys on the phone, one of these writers say, hey, we got this to put out there. You want to put it out? You're damn right I'd put it out. So it would be very easy for them to put out some good news if they had it.
Yes.
And the fact that this has gone for so long after, the Big 12 got theirs, you've got to think that they want to have something to show, and they just don't have it.
Yes.
I know people who are heavily involved and invested in the PAC surviving. I'm a Big Ten guy living in Arizona, so I don't have a horse in the race. I don't really care which way it goes. It just doesn't seem like anything is lining up in the PAC's favor right now. And when I hear someone talking about, we're going to invite Hawaii, I kind of sit here and go, ugh. You understand the NCAA hands out a 13th game to anyone who is willing to go fly to Hawaii and play an OOC game there. I don't know how it works for conference games, but just imagine if now you're being told, now you got to fly all your sports out to Hawaii. It's way out there. It's not just for someone on the coast, but if you're the PAC and you're trying to also expand to say, SMU, and you're going to tell SMU you got to fly all your sports to Hawaii, it's not working. That has, I don't know where that came from. And in terms of AAU, we can go into that. I don't know why people seem to think it's a very shallow take. Now, where I would make a point if I wanted to support the PAC surviving on this is that these schools that talk so much about this are actually dependent upon Stanford. Stanford gets in all this research offers, all these things. Yeah. They don't have enough facilities. They don't have enough researchers to do it all. So what happens is they build a network. It's like vassals. It's like a feudal state. They get in all this research. They can't do it all, so they pick what they want connected to their name, and then they pass out the rest and basically make these schools kind of sort of subservient to them and getting research handed to them, and then they pass on what's going on. So basically it all goes through Stanford. And that's what I would be saying. If I wanted to prove that these schools, no way they leave the PAC, I'd say they're all dependent upon Stanford for research. They're not going anywhere. Otherwise, AAU, you want to talk about how many AAU schools you got? Well, let's say 5 of them leave. How many do you have now? Let's say 4 of them go to the Big 12. Well, now they got 5. We've got more than you. So it's a real kind of iffy thing to call upon as your defense. Have a real defense, like a school like Utah has grown dependent upon Stanford for research. That might keep them in base. I don't know what you think about that, though.
No, I agree. That's a good point. Again, we've hammered on it. The Pac-12 schools want to stay together. They do. Sure when we all agree on this. So, yes, these large research universities have their reasons that they want to stay together. They want to be with their peers. The question is not about want. The question is, can they afford to? Will they even be allowed to? Can they even get a half-decent deal to keep their front porch of the universities viable for the whole university? Will these networks, do they even want a region conference on the Pacific Coast to exist anymore? I mean, that is the real question. And from what we've heard and the numbers we've seen, it seems like the answer is no. But we shall see.
Yeah. What it comes down to is these, a school like Stanford, they can use their money however they want. They don't have to have a self-funding athletic department if they don't want to. So a school that's on the state dole, they have to, largely. They can use a little bit to help support it, but it largely has to be self-funded. So it doesn't really matter. Like, your academics matter to a degree, but if all of a sudden you're looking at a situation where your athletic department is no longer able to fund itself, you have to do something. If any Pac school leaves, it's not because they're like, oh man, we've been waiting to get into the Big 12, man. You can't understand how long we've wanted to go there. It's not that. They want to stay in the Pac. But if they leave, it's because they have to, because the money is going to be double to what they're getting. They
Exposure.
already have expenses at level. And they're out west, so they do actually have a lot of travel costs and spending, because it's a much more widespread out, even for a regional conference. And then when they have to go and play other conferences for comparison's sake, just to stay up in the ratings, it gets real costly for them. So the AAU stuff, it's not going to save them in it. It means that's where they want to be. But yeah, with how long this is taking to get any numbers, it just looks like they're just buying time at this point. And the real question for me is, what are we buying time for? What are we spinning our wheels for? What are you covering for? Is this, maybe there's no other conference that wants to expand for a while, and that might be why this is going on so long. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Wanted to get in on the AAU stuff, because I don't think people really understand the level that it matters and how it actually works. And these schools kind of get used to getting work from the other schools, and it's mostly a one-way street. That's why Stanford is never going to go to the Big Ten. They will never go.
Big 12, you mean?
Anyway.
Yeah.
No, Big Ten. Big Ten. I'm saying Big Ten.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Probably.
But anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the phone call. Appreciate it.
All right.
Call from
Jim.
All right. The floor is yours. Hello. I lost the call. Please call again.
Call from
So,
Okay. I got you. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Greg, and happy 26th anniversary of your 29th birthday, my friend.
Thanks for saying it that way. I appreciate it.
You bet. First, I think something that is overlooked, or that you kind of addressed, those schools that are classified as Tier 1 research facilities are much more research-oriented than are the AAU schools. AAU is a private organization that is designed specifically for the advancement of themselves. They're there to pat themselves on the back and make their schools look stronger. It is not it's not like being classified as a Tier 1 university or Tier 1 research facility. But regardless, I wanted to say I think you're correct in this this cloak part of your thesis, that the time frame of delaying until the end of the month or the 1st of June is kind of going to wait to give everybody a chance to view the offer. But even more than that, it's good. They've got to do it that way, in my opinion, Greg, to find out who is in and who is out, because they're not going to be able to sign a grant of rights agreement unless they know what schools are involved, because the networks are not going to negotiate for a six-school conference or a conference that doesn't include Colorado, Arizona State, Utah. So they have to know who is in and who's out. And I think that's what we're looking at right now with this period of time between now and the 1st of June, is everybody's going to find out what is in that contract before it's actually offered, and then they'll be able to make their statement. And at that point, look for the dagger, my friend. That dagger is going to be stabbed into the back of Colorado deep, because all of the Pac-10 members are going to say, well, Colorado was never really part of the Pac-10. Colorado is not, part of the Pacific area, and they're just going to throw them right underneath the bus. And that will be the sign that the whole thing is going under.
Yeah. Well, John Wilner actually kind of did that already in his last mailbag. So.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You sure did.
Yeah.
Hey, can you? I really would like for you to try to explain something to me, because I don't mean to be dumb, but it just doesn't make much sense to me. I know that that live sports are the last bastion of television advertising left, because everybody watches things now DVR'd and skips through the commercials. But they watch live commercials on sports. But they're talking about like Amazon taking one game from the Pac-12 for $60 million, and that would be $5 million a game. And if they have 1 million people watching that game, and that's an overstatement, That's $5 a person that they're paying to watch that game.
That's $60 million. That you're talking $60 million for the whole. How much were you saying again? Say the numbers again.
All right. Well, look. I mean, let's take let's say that Amazon were to not Amazon, but Apple were to pay $25 million for the Big 12, or $250 million. I'm sorry, for the Pac-10 season, every game. They have 75 games. Right?
That's
how much? That's $5 million a game.
Sure. I can't do math right now, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, well, let me make sure I did that right.
Yeah.
Divided by 75. Yeah, that's 3.3 million. Okay. 3.3 million a game. That's $3.30 per person who watches the game. How do they recoup that? That seems absurd that they're paying for $3.30 per person who watches the game.
Where are you seeing these Amazon numbers that they're willing to?
Well, let's just take what the Big 12 was paid for a game, or for their season, right? The Big 12 was paid.
What the Big 12 would get.
Yeah, what the Big 12 would get.
Okay.
The Big 12 would get $32 million. $32 million per school, right?
Yeah.
And that's 12 games that they have?
Well, okay. It's I can't think because the phone lines are going crazy. Okay,
I'm sorry, but I mean, it comes out to around $3 million a game.
Okay. Let's say there's a 14-team Big Ten conference. Let's go 12. 12 teams. You got 9. You've got 6 conference games a week. Okay. I can't do it. I can't think right now.
No, but that's 72 games. 6 conference.
Well, you have non-conference games as well. You have to think that out of all your team's non-conference games, 66%, give or take, will be the phone lines are just blowing up. 66% of those games will be non-conference games. So you have to add your media company, your media partners also play your non-conference home games. So that has to be added in.
How many games does a typical college football team play a year?
Well, seven home games typically.
Okay, so we'll say 14. That's 14 games times 12 teams is 168 games.
No, it's not that much. You have to cut that in half because two teams are playing each other.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, but there are 12 teams, and I'm sorry, each team would have 14 games, right? And if the Pac or if the Big 12 is getting $31.8 million per team per season, divided by 14 games. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't. I can't even think. I'm sorry.
$2.2 million a game. You know, that's $2.20 a game, I guess. You know.
Yeah.
But regardless of the math, I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
No, that's okay. Normally I'd be on it, but my brain is gone. The phones haven't stopped beeping, so the beeping is in my ears.
I'm sorry. I'll hang up and listen.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
And once again, happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. I love digging in those numbers and such, but I just couldn't. My brain wasn't working. It was just absolutely shut down. And now, of course, the phone lines are dead, but we had a bunch of calls coming. There we go. Okay.
Call from
Taz.
Is that Bev?
Taz. Sorry, brother. Hit the wrong button.
That's okay. The floor is yours, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, listen, I got a little conspiracy theory running around in my own brain if nobody else's.
All right.
Think back a couple weeks ago when everybody was talking about a deal was coming real soon.
Sure.
And then it came out that the Big Ten was hiring a new commissioner and everything just went on pause.
Sure.
I have a feeling, I don't know, I have nothing to back it up, but just in my gut that maybe Washington or Oregon just put a squash on everything and said, we're going to give this guy a couple months to see what he's going to do before we sign anything. And everything just went into, and all of a sudden everybody's waiting 3 months for the next deal to come out.
So you're thinking Oregon and Washington are slow playing this because they want to give room and space to the new Big Ten commissioner to give him time to see if he can make the argument to the Big Ten presidents and possible a new media partner like Amazon to get this expansion deal done. Is that your conspiracy?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, it just makes sense to me that
I think
that
people
they
agree with
give
you.
them time before they sign any grant of rights to anybody, you know?
There's more than one person out there that is on your conspiracy, that believes it.
Yeah, that's just, when I heard some of the callers talking, I'm like, I've been thinking that for a while now, you know?
Yep. Did I lose you? I think I lost you. Okay, thanks for the phone call, though. I do appreciate it. Call again. The phone just hung up, but I appreciate it. Appreciate the phone calls. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You'll get notified because we can pop up at any time. Live show or episode, watch party. So make sure you subscribe to our channel.
Call from
Larry Pilgrim.
Larry Pilgrim, Mr. Utah man. Thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
Happy birthday, Greg.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, so when we're talking about expansion and the West Coast, trying to stay on the West Coast, I was in construction and some of that development and students, and like you said, it's, you know, athletics can be the front door, and so can the academics.
Yeah.
Any conference.
Yeah.
It works in tandem.
Yes.
And so I grew up in Salt Lake City for most of my life, and I started working in the early 90s, and the Salt Lake Valley which is about 17 little township cities, I think we were close to about 300,000 people. It's close to 3 million now. And a lot of big corporations and businesses moved there for purposes that they could get land. The cities and states worked with them really good. But the thing that they said was one of the biggest beneficiaries of moving their companies to Utah was the graduation rate and the workforce that was there. They had the workers there. They had a lot of graduates. And so I think a lot of these things work hand in hand. And Utah's resources are all west of the Rockies. Not that they don't care for the Big 12. It's just their students, their professors, just everything they get comes from the West. And so as we talk about, academics, and it's a front door to your economics socially as well as anything else. If you have companies coming in and building plants and, you're expanding that way, you're growing the state, you're growing people, eventually your fan base is going to grow. So it's a bigger realm than just this academics football. You guys are snobs. It's like the resources, the economy. It's a big will. And
yes,
I was in construction and I saw it. I saw Facebook. I saw Google. I saw Adobe. I saw some of Micron. I saw some of these biggest corporations in the world move there due to the education system and all the graduates they had in those fields and the quality of living, the state working with bringing those companies in, tax purposes. So it's bigger than just that. And most of these people that are in these that are in the development are also graduates of these universities. And so it's about growing the academics, and athletics is the front door to a degree. And what kind of a front door are you getting from the Midwest, from Texas? Most people that are in Texas pretty much stay in Texas. They don't really, migrate west. If anything, the West migrates to Texas. So just a little food for thought there.
Yep. Great.
And then also, if you remember, it was 2 months ago I was talking about Oregon and Washington trying to sabotage the deal.
Yeah.
And also the other thing, the one thing I did want to bring up is I listened to the whole Jim Williams, and his theory was if Apple buys the entire package, everything, not just tier one, they buy everything, they will be using the Pac-12 network production since it's already there.
Yeah.
They don't need production trucks. It's already there.
Yeah.
He said commercially, Apple could easily put the games, the Pac-12 games, on the commercial stuff, bars, restaurants, there. They could also, he did say they could work with DirecTV. I believe that, yes, Fox, ESPN are consolidating, and the Pac is trying to fight against, Oregon State, Washington State being eliminated.
Yeah.
And they're trying to stay together for many reasons. And, Apple may be the only saving grace, and the exposure, they may have to use the Pac-12 network. But I've said it before, people on the East Coast are not watching 10:30 games if their TV is on. It's because they're laying in bed trying to fall asleep. People are not staying up unless they're a fan of those schools. So people worrying about exposure on the East Coast at 10:30, that's not. How many viewers are you literally losing that are true viewers and people not just with the television on?
Yeah.
So
couple points. One is these research universities in the Pac-12 are not just the engine for the economy out in the Pacific Coast, but they are the great engines of the United States of America. We've said that at Peek Around the Corner. You're absolutely correct. These are vital, important schools, institutions. The question is, as in this particular saga, is without the city of Los Angeles, do these networks, do they want this Pacific Coast Conference, this regional conference, to exist any longer? Because everybody sees the value of these individual schools connecting these Pacific Coast, the Pac-12 schools to other national conferences? Are they more valuable if you partition them out to more to the Big Ten, to the Big 12? That's the question.
The sum of the parts are worth more than the sum of the
Yes. In this day and age, to where these large universities are still going to be large universities, are still going to be the engine, even if they are in the Big 12. I don't know. But you made a great point, and that often gets lost here at Peek Around the Corner. And again, shame on me. The Pac-12 universities are incredibly important, but not just to your region, but to the whole country. The research that they do, all that. God dang it, I forgot what my other point was.
Jim Williams.
Huh?
The Jim Williams point?
No.
No.
God, you struck something that...
Resources. Most of those universities get most of their resources and interchange most of their resources west of the Rockies.
Yeah. Man, Larry, I forgot what my second point was. But yes, okay. My brain is gone. It's my birthday. I'm 55. I've reached the age where I cannot remember anything. But I appreciate your call, Larry.
You bet.
Thank you so much. I got a notebook, I got a pen, I write things down that I want to talk about later. And oftentimes I don't write it down because I say to myself, I'm going to remember. There's no way I'm going to forget this point. And then the point just leaves me. Woo, that's pretty bad. But anyways.
Call from
Mona Vision.
Mona Vision is in the house. Mr. Buckeye, what's going on?
Well, Greg, Kansas leaving for the Pac, Tulane being added, Hawaii being added. That's one for the books. I just wanted to touch on some points. I think Immaculate made a very good point about Stanford. I would add on to that, Stanford is very against paying players, even as conference employees. So I think that's number two why they won't be in the Big Ten. I could easily see them eliminating football altogether and just being an Olympic sports university and playing as an independent and mixing and matching in different regions for their athletes, different conferences. They could still end up playing some of the West Coast big schools for their Olympic sports, which is what really matters to Stanford in terms of athletics anyway. And as to the Colorado Chancellor's point, I think what he is saying in that article is they've accepted that streaming is going to be the vast majority, if not the outright carrier of their programming athletically moving forward.
So your take is different than mine then? Your take is on that.
He's saying that, let's take the next 5 years on streaming to see where it's going to put us in 5 years. I think he's saying that he's willing to take that plunge. The conference is willing to take that plunge. Because there's simply no way, Greg, that the Pac schools are going to be number 3 in terms of payouts without 80 to 90% of that deal being streaming. We already know the lineal networks are not going to overpay for college football anymore, at least for the Pac's college football. The only one that would be Apple. And even the Amazon, I don't see Amazon just taking one game. Even the best game in the Pac, and I don't mean any offense to the Pac, but what's the best game every week in the Pac? You're going to have Oregon 3 times, Washington 3 times, Utah 3 times, and Colorado for the curiosity factor.
I do think Amazon just wants one game, though. I mean,
right, but I mean, are they going to overpay for one game?
No, they're not going to overpay. And Mashawn has said they're not overpaying. They're not up in their price.
So why? So I tend to agree with what Ryan said. I think that Amazon would be better off in their mind to just try and carry the money for Oregon and Washington and try and sign some deal with the Big Ten to do a Friday night Big Ten game. But I don't see there's just no possible way with the numbers, even the range you threw out on the high side, Greg, that they're going to get a payout that's going to be higher than what the ACC and Big 12 make without streaming. It's just not. It's not possible.
Okay, I'm going to read you what he said here. I got it up on the screen.
Sure.
Di Stefano, and I apologize if I'm getting his name wrong. I get everybody's name wrong. I get Mo and Vision's name wrong. He says, I think in 5 years, we'll get a much better feel for streaming services. That doesn't sound like a guy who believes that the media deal they're going to get right now is going to be more on the streaming side. But then
I disagree. I think he's saying exactly that once they've been in the streaming pool, they'll have a better understanding of the streaming pool.
So I think in 5 years, now when we're in this, we'll get a much better feel. So he's willing to gamble a little bit. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying they have to. If they plan to get, it's not a matter if they want to. It's a matter if they have to.
Okay.
If the conference is going to stay together and make the type of money that they're claiming they're going to make, they have to. It's not fiscally possible without a majority streaming deal.
Okay, so let's go to the next paragraph. So I should say the next sentence. So the first sentence, he says, I think in 5 years we'll get a much better feel for streaming services. Your perception is that, we're going to be in this more streaming the linear deal, and in 5 years we're going to get a much better feel. So then the next thing he says is, that's changing so much. I think he's talking about streaming. That's changing so much. And it's going to put us in a position to pick up some things that maybe we're not going to get at this point. So what you're saying is the Chancellor believes it's going to be more streaming, and that now that we're in it, now that we've gotten a partner, let's say with Apple TV, we're going to be able to get more of an advantage years down the road when we do the deal with them. Is that what you're...
Well, so first, if you go back to that first sentence, he tells you the length of the deal. So you know the deal that they've got on the table right now is 5 years.
Yeah, and that's
whether he intended to give that out or not. It's a 5-year deal.
That's what our Arizona State Money Perch guy told us. Remember that letter, the last letter?
Yes.
He said 5 years, 4 different times. So I think that's been kind of settled on as a possibility.
Well, you're getting a Colorado source. He's confirming it for you now with that statement.
Yeah.
But I think the thing he's talking about down the road getting more things possible is that within 5 years, maybe Oregon wins a national championship.
Okay.
Deion Sanders at Colorado makes, there's so many things that can happen in 5 years. At the end of that media deal, then maybe they've increased the value of their conference enough to go out and get some more linear programming, or going to another streamer and saying, look, we know how to do this. We've got our own production facilities. We've got this 5 years under our belt. Pay us more.
Okay, so let's flip the script a little bit. Let's say, and you're kind of convincing me here. You're using really good logic. Let's say he is saying, let's say the Chancellor of Colorado, now he's he's not even the decision maker on this, but I hear the president is. But let's just say what you're reading the tea leaves correctly. The chancellor is basically saying 5 years, and we're going to be leaning on streaming here, okay? Way more than any other Power 5 conference. We're going to be gambling a little bit. We're going to learn more than 5 years. So what does that do? Let's say all that is accurate. What does that do for President Robbins of Arizona, who has come out in public not only once, not only twice, but 3 different times, 3 different interviews to say, this is not going to be a heavy streaming deal. We can't do that. It can't even be 50-50 streaming and linear. It has to be majority linear for this thing to work. What does that do for President Robbins of Arizona?
Well, again, I've said it before. You can't always get what you want, but sometimes you can get what you need. And if Apple's going to be paying these schools upwards of $40 million annually, $8 million more than the Big 12 is, that's, I mean, I understand they want to have linear exposure, but at the same time, they'd also like to have that $8 million more than the Big 12. So
that's a lot of money. Yeah.
It's going to come, or, Arizona could totally leave. It's, it's not that I don't think the Pac could survive without Arizona, without Colorado, without Arizona State. I could see them easily backfilling and, picking up San Diego State and SMU and not Kansas, but, Colorado State, and still staying on a streaming program and getting 35 to 38 million, and just trying to see where they can go the next. I mean, this is going to be, I think personally, this should be the last media deal for the Pac. This is going to be the last deal they have. So
it will be
Oregon State.
It will be
Washington
fascinating.
State are going to be left out, but
it will be fascinating if the Pac-12 locks up a deal with Apple TV for most or all their content. It's going to be just wild to watch how all that would work, and if it does work. And it's wild to think Washington and Oregon would sign that deal.
Well, ultimately, I think it comes down to this. It's 5 years. It gets them the most money possible. It's a risk-reward scenario, absolutely. But it gives time for those schools to figure out the next step.
Okay.
Oregon and Washington obviously want in the Big Ten. But if that's not in the cards right now, this is going to be the best option for them. Cal obviously wants in the Big Ten. But if that's not in the cards right now, this is the best option for them. And there's still that outside chance that Utah, Colorado, Arizona might be that outlier school that might make it into the Big Ten in 5 years. So I don't know. That's just my point of view, Greg. That's why I read the article. I can certainly see how you read it the way you read it.
I was confused, I got to tell you.
I think it raises more questions than answers.
Yeah.
But fortunately, the time always wins. So I think you're right. We're going to know before the beginning of June at the very latest. So.
Yeah. Great call,
all right,
Motivation.
Greg, well, I'll get off here. I just wanted to say one more time, happy birthday to you.
Appreciate it.
Glad you can order off that 55-plus menu. I've been doing it for years, since I was 30. So it's not mandatory to be that old to do it, Greg. Happy birthday anyway.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Great call. You see,
Call from.
Ha! Remember you laughed.
Yes, sir. The floor is yours, Western Civic.
I just want to tell you, it's pronounced DiStefano. And I know that because that's the same guy who was the RA at Oregon in my dorm that roped me into playing on their baseball team. It's pronounced DiStefano. So if you're listening out there, Mark, go Ducks, and thanks. Just remember you laughed, my friend. Just remember.
I'm laughing. Okay.
When there's a will, there's a way. Why wouldn't they? Are you kidding me? Ames, Waco, Provo, and Lubbock, or New Orleans, San Diego, Houston, Dallas, Hawaii, Seattle, and the Bay Area, and Boulder. I mean, it's like a no-brainer. They just got to figure out and they will. Thanks again.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. De Stefano. That's how you say it, De Stefano. I have to say that I'm not going to remember how to say that properly. It's not, just to make something clear, because we got a lot of new people on this show all the time. I say words and names incorrectly all the time. It's not a sign of disrespect. I have a hard time pronunciating words. I have a hard time remembering how to say them correctly. So De Stefano, maybe I can say it correctly tonight. I probably won't say it correctly on the next live show. And that has absolutely nothing to do with me showing any disrespect. So I do apologize for every time I can't quite say what I'm supposed to say. Now you're asking yourself, well, why are you on YouTube? Why do you have a YouTube channel when you cannot talk? That's a very good question. I do not have the answer. But I had speech issues since the day I was born. I was deaf. That's why I talk loud. That's why I sing loud. That's why I have difficulty talking. So, De Stefano, maybe I can say that correctly, but tomorrow probably not. I can't even say the starting quarterback of the Golden Gophers. I can't even say his last name correctly every time. And he's the guy who's going to lead us to the Big Ten West, to a 9-4, to a 6-6 record this year.
Call from
Steve, thanks for calling again, sir. The floor is yours.
Well, as I did on my last call, Greg, I want to preface saying I don't want to see the Pac break up for any reason at all, but we can talk AAU, we can talk anything we want. Quite frankly, when you're in the meetings, I don't care if it's Apple, Amazon, or any of the major networks, and if the conversation turns to AAU or this, they're saying, sorry, that during that football game, that doesn't make us a dime. Okay?
Yeah.
It just doesn't. Okay? Again, if the Colorado Chancellor thinks that this is a big experiment with streaming, in which it is, it may be a gateway to something else, which it could. I just got to go back to what I went back to on my last call, that the numbers that the PAC has for viewership are most likely going to go down during the streaming. And when they come back, let's say it's a 5-year deal like everybody's talking, when they come back and the numbers look worse than they did when they were on mostly linear or Pac-10 network or whatever they were on, that's not going to help you in your next negotiation. So a 5-year deal, you don't ever go into a deal saying this is going to be the last deal. But the scenario is working out that it probably could be.
All right. And again, you hit on it, Steve. The numbers, now I remember what I was hit on earlier by Larry. The numbers are declining. The eyeballs on the Pac-12 content are declining. And Larry talked about the lack of exposure out on the East Coast. They're falling asleep. The games are on too late. There's also that the biggest problem with the Pac-12, and Steve and I talked about it last time in his last phone call, is Pac-12 country doesn't watch Pac-12 football. That's just the truth. They need, Utah, I'm sorry, but Utah football has been absolutely outstanding. And great content. Great content. And if they were playing in the Big Ten right now, a lot more viewers would be on Utah. Probably a lot more views would be on Arizona if they were in the Big 12. Definitely a lot more views on Washington and Oregon would be in the Big 10. Now, someone's going to have to pay for all that. Maybe it doesn't happen on this cycle, but Steve is absolutely correct. And we've been talking about it. I don't think these networks want, when I say networks, I'm talking about Fox, ESPN, ABC in with ESPN, CBS, NBC. There is no real interest in keeping a Pacific Coast Conference together, even though they're great universities, even though they want to stay together, even though they have a history, even though they're in huge markets, even though it's San Francisco, even though it's possible San Diego, even though it's possible Dallas, even though it's possible Colorado, Portland, Eugene, Pullman, whatever. Great markets, some of them. Great universities, all of them. But the networks, because the numbers are so low, and Steve pointed out to you again, and if it's a streaming service, the numbers decline even more. I don't think these networks want the Pac-12 to exist anymore. And if that's true, then it's probably over, unless the Pac-12 gambles on a heavy streaming with a little bit of linear with CW, Ion, whoever. Can they cobble that together? But that's where we're at right now. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, let's look at since everybody's talking Apple, and if they want the total package, Apple has more money than they'll ever know what to do with, most likely.
Yeah.
Fact of the matter is, the reason they have more money than they know what to do with is because they don't overpay for things.
Yeah,
and they are not going to come in. They are not going to come in and say, we want the whole package. We want all 5 games. We'll figure out how to get you guys on the air. We want all 5 games. They're not going to overpay. They're not going to do that. Why would they? The competition is them and Amazon, okay? So Amazon says, all right, Apple, you guys go ahead. You guys go buy all the rights. You guys go do this. And, you know, they're down to how many time slots on linear? Very few for the pack. They really are. I mean, where's ESPN or Fox or if TBS and TNT decide they want one game, they're in such financial straits right now. I don't see that happening on a linear. So Apple is not going to come in and overpay. It won't happen. If it does, it would be the biggest coup that the Pac-10 could pull off.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't see where. I don't see it. I can't see Apple coming in and say, boom, 5 years, here's $35 million.
I don't see it either.
Per year. Apple's not. Apple don't. There's no company or corporation that's successful enough that would come in and overpay for a product when they have all the data laying in front of them from the past. Go back 10 years if they want, of eyeballs that are on the Pac-10. Okay, that is just. It makes no sense. No sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why they would overpay like that. Unless Steve, and I think we have to guard against this, if a deal's announced, Apple TV, $350 million, let's say. So people are calculating that out. Maybe it's $35 million per school, maybe it's 34, maybe it's 33 because the Pac-12 conference will get a cut in it. Whatever. Let's say it's $33 million. I think we all have to just hit the pause button on that and make sure that it's a true 35, 34, 33 million to each Pac-12 school, because maybe in that contract somewhere, the Pac-12 has to use some of that money for production. Maybe they don't clearly make all that money. So we have to watch to make sure what exactly that deal is. But again, you're making great points, Steve.
I just don't get where this has gone on for so long. As I talked the last call, Greg, this has gone on for so long.
Yeah.
It's hard to figure out where they are. They've seen some preliminary numbers. They've seen the percentage of streaming, and they haven't seen hard numbers. They've seen percentage of linear and streaming. These guys have all seen that in the pack. They know what they're looking at. I just don't get, and I know they want to stay together. I want them to stay together.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I just don't get the rhetoric that comes out. Keep your mouth shut. Get the deal done. Get the best possible deal you can get, and say, here it is. This is it. This is because I'm going to tell you what. Maybe not Apple, but I know, and you brought it up just a couple minutes ago, I know the linear networks could probably care less.
Yeah.
They could probably care less. Why would ESPN or whoever want them for that 10:30 time slot for the pack? The only reason they'd want them is because they could pay them less. But why wouldn't they just say, hey, we can flip Arizona, we can flip Arizona State, or even San Diego State if they don't go to the pack, or whoever on the West Coast. We could flip them into that 10:30. What do we care what conference they're playing in? Okay?
Yeah.
So we'll lowball them ultimately to get some exposure on the West Coast, and if they bite, okay. If they don't, okay.
Yeah.
I don't get I don't get the mindset of the members of the pack. I don't understand. I'm having a hard time grasping what they're setting their thinking. What are they setting their thinking? I don't get it. It's got the clock's ticking now.
Yeah.
Maybe it was. Maybe they don't think it was 2 months, 5 months ago. Guess what? They're on the clock now.
Well, Steve, I can tell that this is not your first rodeo. It's not my first rodeo, and this is a fascinating story. No matter it's because it is on so many different levels.
Yeah. So anyhow, Greg, thanks for having me on.
You
Happy
bet.
Birthday.
Thank you.
And
please call again.
I will. Thanks.
Please, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Call from
Daniel Montecapo.
Daniel's on the line. Holy smokes. What's going on, Mr. Hoosier?
Oh, not a lot. I'm just doing some croak and stagger. I'm here late to the show, but I finally made it and called in. So,
good. Beautiful.
One thing I've been thinking of is, a lot of I think part of the reason why so many different juxtaposing stories out there is people say that, they almost talk as if the Pac-12 is one entity speaking, even you have different presidents out there speaking on their school's behalf. I don't think there's enough trust amongst all of their individual members to actually come out and say anything concrete that they can all jump on board with, other than that we're just kind of there together for now. And so I don't think there's a really good sense of what's going to happen. So if they don't know what's going to happen, then we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I agree. The one thing that has sort of got my my suspicions up on something, and the reason why the title screen on this live show is, what was it again? The hidden the hidden agreement or something like that. The hidden compromise. This chancellor, the Colorado chancellor, the thing that he was most strong on in his comments is no one is going to leave before we see the deal in front of us. They're not saying none of us are going to leave. They're saying nobody is going to leave until we see the deal in front of us. Robin said the same thing. Nobody is leaving. No one's bolting until we see the deal in front of us. Because well, if I believe in our Arizona State's guy, Money Perch, and to me he's been nailing the whole story. If we're to believe him, there is distrust in that conference, right?
Exactly.
It's to the point where I really think, again, this is educated speculation. No one has dropped this intel on me, that there is a hidden compromise, that they've made some sort of deal among themselves. Not on the media deal itself, because they don't know what it is. They might have a sense of where it's going, but the process. And the process is the following. No one is leaving until we get the media, till we see the media deal. But in return, we better see that thing pretty soon. Like, exactly. we're not gonna, if it's gonna be months out from now, we can't we can't promise anything. But as long as we're gonna see this deal here in a couple weeks from now, all right, no one is going to leave until we see the deal. I think there's a hidden
compromise.
Yes. But again,
I think that you're right, Greg. I think they're saying to themselves, like, look, let's not shoot ourselves in the foot while we're in the midst of a negotiation that more or less, if we aren't on the same page, guarantees the demise of our conference. Let's get together on the same page so that we can get the best deal in front of us before we make that decision.
Yeah.
I do agree with that.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So that's all I had, Greg. And
all right.
I'm going to do some more croak and stagger here on my end, and I'll continue listening.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Wow. What a show. I think we're going to close it up. We've been on the air for almost 3 hours. And I appreciate you all coming in. Yes, I turned 55, so I appreciate you all spending time with me tonight. For those who are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel before you leave, because you'll get notified of our next live show, our next episode, our next watch party. We could pop up at any time. This Pac-12 saga is dragging on, but we think it's coming to some sort of conclusion. We could pop up at any time with some reported news or our own intel. We expect another Arizona State Money Perch letter to come to us at any moment. Now, it takes usually a day before it gets to me. Make sure we can say what we can say on that letter. So make sure you subscribe so you can get notified of when we pop up. And please smash that like button before you leave. It helps with the algorithms of YouTube so very much. And share the video with your family and friends. I want to thank you. I'm so humbled that you all came with us tonight. 3-hour show. We appreciate you all. Until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.